Hello from Bali. This is the podcast Pigeon of Peace, where we do discuss awesome skills of troubleshooters. Watch, listen, and check the description below for the details. Let's talk about cult of personality, and let's start with the definition.
Cult of personality, the situation with a lot of people, instead of thinking by themselves and using arguments and rules and regulations, they will say something. Maxim told us to do exactly this. And sometimes in the companies, it's completely ruinable. For example, I was working in a company and suddenly I realized that if I could not convince someone, the last argument would be like, it was the will of our shareholder, and everyone will say, oh, come on. And suddenly I realized that's not a good mood to talk people like this, because I should be convincible. I should be heavyweight negotiator, but not to use other names. Then I was given another position and everything was good. But at this point of time, person who was previously head of bank was leaving the bank, and when I came to the ATM machine to get some cash, suddenly I found that a lot of people create like small pictures. This ATM with client also, but instead of main screen instead of intro, it was the face of this person, because a lot of people were sad that he was going out. Yes, maybe it was a bit of jealousy because it was not my face, but I was thinking how he could allow to do this. It's exactly cult of personality.
And when we actually speak about the cult of personality, let's actually speak from the position of the persona, like whether it could be beneficial to someone to create this, or maybe at a certain point of time, they will use their skill of adequacy to realize that their word actually would weigh a ton comparing to others, and it could be distracting everything. Because at a certain point of time, yes, in some of the predator-like companies, we need fast decisions, but from another point of view, we also need maybe like smart and initiative people. And I do believe it's also like always balance. So what should be more or less person who wants to build an effective company, or maybe like anything else, could think of?
If you want to build an effective company, you should never use yourself as a last argument. I don't know how to say it in English, but in Russian, there is a saying like last argument of the kings. So your name should wait as a weight of Pero. Further? Further. If you will put your name on the scale, it will make you heavy and heavy, and after some time you will be like heavyweight champion in the boxing or maybe in the battlefield. But it's about war. But business, it's about to be smart. And for example, I will give you an example. Something like this. It was a client, and when I was working with him, he was eager to change borders of the project for several times. And I will, at the first stages, I was telling him, okay, if you want, we can do this, but you will pay more. And he was saying, money is not the problem. And I was thinking, okay, if money is not the problem, I will accept all your changes. And after several weeks, I give him a bill, and he found that all the changes would cost him something like $100. And he was saying, oh, come on, my wish is so expensive. And I was saying, yes, it was with discount. And he say, okay, never give me discount, but if we will exceed 50,000, give me a sign that all my wishes for this period is limited.
That's correct. And maybe we will look into positive or a bright side, because at a certain point of time, there might be, something that, again, maybe it could be like a wartime that could actually rally the team. So when this thing actually could be used as a weapon or as a tool in order to achieve some short or maybe even long-term goals.
When I was on the second course in my institute, I was hired by one prof he wants to build a program to model some kind of semiconductor chips. And I was not sure that I could do this. And I invited another guys from my group, and we were working all together. And when we were sad and we were not able what to do, this prof was giving us a books. And you know what is strange thing? He was not able to make programming, but he was giving us books about theory, and he was pointing by his finger, you should read this chapter. And after several days of hesitation, we often find the solution. And you know, after this time, I was thinking, this is not about us, that's not about our ability, this is about his will, his power, and his cult. He wants us to make this, and he will not take any excuses.
Well, it's interesting to see the dynamics, like how exactly the person will build a cult around them. Maybe even it's against their will. When I was working in some of the companies, it feels that this like a cult or like a half cult was built towards the person. Let's say the guy is like quite nice, so hence all of the girls will, you know, like create something like this, even they would not like stand a chance. Or vice versa, it could be like a person who is like a funny enough, or making jokes, or maybe like really rough and tough. There would be, you know, like part of the memes, or like someone would even create like emojis for them. But then how exactly it started to be, like whether it's like should be a charisma or certain things, or maybe it's the environment that is looking for its person to make its cult of it.
You remind me a very old anecdote. One general was talking at jokes, and a lot of officers were laughing. But suddenly he found that one of colonel was not laughing at his joke, and he asked, "It's not funny enough?" And he was saying, "Yes, it's funny, but I am from another region, so I am not forced to make myself happy with your jokes." The same would be with charisma and something like this. If people feel themselves as a slave, they oblige to make smiles, and they will use all their body language to show that you as a boss hire of them. But sometimes you will go out and you will find that you are nobody. When I was working in Ukraine, I was there for 11 years. And then when I was moved to Moscow, suddenly I realized that there are a lot of people who are eager to debate with me. And for me, it was quite unusual. I'm not used to be for last 5 or 6 years to make it public disputes. But then I realized, okay, it's quite concurrently
Competitive.
it's quite competitive environment, so I should use it, and I should never be such a calm person, and I would never grow cult of personality by myself. But I'm sure that several times, at least 2 times in my life, I was building cult of myself. The main argument in the quarrel of the people was something like, Oleg said us to do this.
And let's say we in the position of the person who could be like a formal leader, or maybe the owner of the company, or maybe one of the stakeholders. And if they will see that, you know, like those things are growing, and maybe it's towards the person, how exactly they could assess it in order to make the proper decision, and what exactly they should think about, like what should be their final goal, whether to keep the person or not, or maybe it could be very high above, and it should be definitely about the company in its future.
Let's make comparison to the flower. Sometimes you have a small grass which will hit the ground, and then at some point it will open and you will see this соцветие, colorful part of the flight of the flower.
Yeah, just
Like
the flower itself when it's blooming.
Okay, blooming part of the flower. Yes, thank you. Correct. And you know, for me, it was quite a heavy hit. It was time I was 40 years old, and it was my birthday. And suddenly, I get a very expensive present from my colleagues. And at this point, I was thinking how it's possible. And then I ask them, and I make query, and they say, "Yes, we collect for your birthday for 5,000 US." Russian rubles. It was like 15 years ago or 12 years ago. And at this point, I realized that I was asked when they have birthday just for 100. So I am boss and I have salary like 3 to 5 times higher, but I was given to another people 1,000 Russian rubles, but everyone was collecting to my birthday 5,000. And at this point, it was like a blooming flower. At this point, I say, okay, come on, never give me any kind of present, just flowers in the pots.
Well, I do believe at a certain point of time, each person would have their table in mind, showing like how much they give and how much they receive. Same thing with the weddings. Then my last question will be how knowing about cult of personality could help to make this world a better place.
When you will hear that some person is very important in restaurant, in business, or in hotel, you should understand that at this point of time you were put out of rails. So you are not important if anyone else is important. You know, for example, sometimes it would be quarrel in the first class of plane when old lady wouldn't like to sit close to the Negro boy, or for example, someone will look like not neat and another person which with dog and something like this will say, oh, come on, maybe you mixed the place. At this point, you should understand that if people want them to be higher, then they have a very dark soil. If you want to be a member of the society, if you want to be human on the earth, you should understand that all people are equal.
And we reviewed the skill of cult of the person and how it could be helpful for you stay in peace.